Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Thunder. This is Two Dads React. And Tony and I are going to get into some interesting topics. It's a reaction based show, so I'm going to show him some things that he hasn't seen. And he's going to show me some things that I haven't seen. But the general topic is going to be surrounding the river Euphrates. Um, River's drying up, it's been drying up for a while. There's all kinds of other things that are happening, other world events, and is it prophetic? Is it is it Book of Revelations? Is it apocalypse? Is it end times? Is it is it a sign of those things? And so that's a sort of interesting kind of topic. Um, but we'll also be taking a look at a variety of TikToks. Um, on a variety of topics, and it seems like a lot of these are sort of centered around a lot of false prophets in the church. So we've got an action-packed, very thought-provoking, dynamic show for you tonight. Two Dads React. Let's go. Warning. Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised. What's happening, man? How you doing?
Hey, not much. No,
Yeah.
not much. Just working hard like usual, doing stuff. Mowed the lawn yesterday, all that kind of fun stuff.
Oh, right, right. It sounds like some dad stuff.
Yeah.
Sounds like some
How
lame-o
about you?
dad.
Yeah, lame with that stuff.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. Semester is over. At
Okay. So is that good for you or what?
well, yeah. I mean, it's. I mean, I'm always doing stuff, so I've got a bunch of projects for the summer, and
Well, you
you
got the
know,
summer off, right? Pretty much.
I wouldn't say it's off. I would say it's different. Uh,
Okay.
I mean, I'm not. My teaching appointment doesn't include summer teaching, but I still have to do all of the planning and course development, and there's a bunch of all that kind of stuff going on. And then also, of course, I'm a musician, so there's a sort of the as far as like uh, gigs and stuff. That stuff sort of spikes during the summer during this period, which is good. I'm actually going to be playing a concert in Indiana on Saturday, and it's with Joe Piscopo.
You mean this Saturday coming up?
This Saturday coming out, Saturday Night Live, Joe
Oh, if
Piscopo. Yeah.
okay. He is he one of the musicians for Saturday Night Live or something?
No, no, no. He's an old comedian from
Oh,
Saturday
okay.
of Saturday Night Live.
From the old days.
Yeah,
Okay.
from the days. So he's got
Huh.
a show, and he books a band, and so
What?
I'm
How do you
doing
spell his last name?
Piscopo. Let's see here. I should be able to just rattle
Oh, I
that
got it.
off.
I got it here. I got it. Oh,
So
yeah, okay, I've seen his face before. Alright,
yeah,
yeah.
and for a while it was. You remember Joe Piscopo? He was like lifting weights like crazy, right? You
Yeah, looks
remember like
kinda like he might have been big.
yeah,
He's got a big
uh,
stature.
yeah. So anyhow, um, let's go ahead and jump right into it.
Wow.
All kinds of stuff to discuss.
He's been in a lot of shows and movies and stuff too, looks like, or quite a few.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep. All
alright.
right, let's see
Cool,
what we
man.
got. All right, so
Um,
I'm gonna start here. Uh, this is a good place to start. This is a good place to start. Um, this is they're in court. It's like divorce court, and this is one of the you know I guess this is the litigant. This is the person that's bringing the case against the other dude or the other person rather. So let's take a look.
But he cooked full course meals for. How did he make you gain weight? How did he make you gain weight? Cause now the man can cook, brother can throw down, but he cooked full course meals for breakfast, lunch, dinner. 2 o'clock in the morning, if I was hungry, he wouldn't fix me a sandwich. This man would make a whole meatloaf, potatoes and gravy, vegetables, a big stupid cup of Kool-Aid. I go to sleep right on that. Get up in the morning, he done fix French toast, pancakes, grits, biscuits. So now I'm laying on food on top of the food I just laid on a couple of hours ago.
So your complaint is that this man cooked too often and too well, and
And he made me gain weight.
Mrs. Lucas, have you lost your mind?
I like that
that's
judge
pretty
because
funny.
she talks like if she detects if she detects like some BS, she's like, come on, man.
That
Like
that
what
girl doesn't really look overweight either. I mean, I've seen a lot more overweight than that.
Well, it's kind of hard to see in the aspect ratio that's there. She's definitely a little bit overweight, but I wouldn't say that she's like I wouldn't call her obese or something like that. But
Mm,
but the point was, and this is just a from that whole proceeding. She's trying to divorce the guy because basically, and she couldn't come up with any valid reasons. This was
Cooking too
the
well.
of right. This was the extent of, you know, this was like the most significant thing that she could come up with.
I think a lot of women would like that, dude. I mean, not all, but I mean, there's quite a few, especially if they have kids or something, man. They would love that. She's cooking all the time for them, you know. I can't even
Absolutely.
believe he's doing that. Why is he cooking so much, man? What's up with this guy?
Well, you know, he maybe he just loves his wife, and maybe that's the way that's like his love language. Like he just really likes to do stuff for people.
He's an
I think
act. What is it?
yeah,
Acts of kindness, dude, or whatever. There's like
yeah,
4. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, let's see here. Let's take a look at another one here.
Well, you
Uh,
heard about Crowder, right?
oh yeah,
You
of
heard
course.
that the whole
And
divorce.
I figured we would talk about that and probably talk a little bit about Tucker Carlson. Um, there's another thing that I do want to kind of get your thoughts on, and this is really trending and going really crazy, especially on Black YouTube. And that is this interview between Ebony K. Williams and Ayanna Van Zant. So uh, Ebony K. Williams, who's a lawyer and she's a media personality, and she's a host on one of the a show called the Griot or the Griot, and she had an interaction with Ayanla. She asked Ayanla to come on her show because uh, Ayanla was saying some things, and she tends to be sort of critical of um, she tends to be critical of sort of modern women choices with respect to relationships and like this. And she actually had a show on Oprah Winfrey's own network where she would meet with like couples and she would try to help them work through their issues, and it was like some really dramatic, like way over the top, like they had huge significant issues, and she'd like talk them through and kind of coach them through the process and stuff. So she says a bunch of stuff I don't tend to agree with, but I'd say I agree with about 90% of what she says, right? So anyhow, I'm gonna play this, and then you can see the caption here. Ebony K. Williams told Ayanna Van Zant that she wouldn't date a bus driver unless he owns the bus. Uh, go ahead.
Would you date a bus driver? You. Would you date
If
a
he
bus
owns
driver?
the bus, if he owns
No.
it, if he owns the bus,
See, that's a
Ayanna.
problem. That's a problem. That's a problem.
Okay.
Because the standards and requisites, and I'm not talking about him laying on his sofa playing video games all day. I'm not talking about that. But the standards and the criteria that we use to measure men is off for who we are as women and who they are in this society. I would date a bus driver if he loved driving the bus, if he was a man of integrity, if he was good to his mama, if he treated me well, I would date a bus driver. But we think that it's another human being's responsibility to give us what we need instead of us building together. I can build with a bus driver. I'd have my little stash over on the side in my prenup, but I could build with a bus driver. So I think some of the criteria that we look for in the reality of today keeps us unhappy, keeps us angry, keeps us imbalance. And then when the men show up, we want to beat them up because they're not living up to our standards and criteria. And it's not working, beloved. It's just not working. So it's not that it's bad or wrong, it's obsolete. It's obsolete. We have to come up with a new way of being. I don't believe in carrying a man. A man has to do for himself.
Now this is so obviously I mean she gave really good advice. I thought she made some really good points. Um, Now I was with her all the way up to when she said, she'll have her stash and she'll get a prenup. Not because I'm against people having a prenup, because I would advocate for men, especially successful men, um, to consider that because of how the legal system is. However, you know that she would be critical, super critical of men that are getting prenups, right? Because, well, that just shows that you don't trust her. That just shows that you're not willing to truly be vulnerable. But when the shoe's on the other foot, it's like, well, because I'm worth a lot of money, and I don't want this bus driver skimming, thinking that they're going to marry me and then be able to just get half of my bread. So
Yeah, I
that
mean, a lot of it though is just today's culture, man. I mean, it's just a culture of just like get what you can when you can. You know what I mean? And no one's really do people actually have the values that they used to have? No, you know what I mean. So maybe back in the old days you could keep your door unlocked. Now you can't, right? Now it's
very
like
true.
everybody needs a prenup or something. Back in
Pretty
the old
much.
days, you didn't need it really as
Yep.
much.
Pretty much. Um, but the sort of crux of the issue here is, now this woman is, she's wealthy, she's a media personality, she has status, she's a lawyer, you know and there's a certain kind of disposition that professional women have, where they'll be sort of looking down on blue collar men. And this
Is it,
is
you're talking about the older lady, right? Or are you talking about the younger one?
no, I'm talking about the younger lady.
Okay, I was gonna say the older lady, man. She's like grandma level almost. you know,
Well, she is grandma level. I mean, I think she has
I
grandma.
mean, if you're that old, I mean, the prenup's not as huge of a deal. I mean, you can't take that with you when you go past the grave. There, it's not going to go very far. But of course, maybe she wants to give it to her offspring or something like it. Who knows?
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean?
So, but there's a couple issues here. First of all, you mentioned something that's interesting, and that is that caused me to think of this. Now, first of all, this woman, she's never dated. I mean, to my knowledge, she has not dated a bus driver. I'm talking about Ayanla, the older woman. She
Right,
said
right,
that,
right.
but to my knowledge, she has not. So that's kind of like one of those things where, um, okay, I'll say this, I'll say that I would do this, but yeah, but she didn't marry a bus driver either. So they're, in a matter of speaking, they're kind of both in the same boat, right?
It's kind of
And
like some of the personalities on YouTube that like say, "Hey, I'm for the traditional family and stuff," but it's a woman who's not even married. You know what I mean? Like you'll see that all the time. You see it all the time. A lot of the women on YouTube, they're like promoting traditional family values. They're not even married. There are some that actually are married, though. I mean, like, uh, what's her name? Lauren, Chen. She's married and she promotes that, but she's not like one of those trying to put herself out there. You know what I mean? But yeah, so we're going to be talking about Euphrates River and stuff as well in this video live stream. I just want to put that out there for those watching that are coming on board. We're just going back and forth talking about videos of women and TikToks and things like that about relationships. And then we're going to also talk about the Euphrates River and some interesting stuff that I found happening in Mecca and also what's going on with that Brazilian uh, what happened with that carnival in Brazil in Rio de Janeiro, which
Ooh,
is rather amazing as well.
yes, let me just make this last point about this last video here. Um, but this issue of sort of, uh, not considering blue collar men or overlooking them. And anyhow, she's taking a lot of heat right now, and she's been doing a sort of media rounds of sort of damage control. Um, but she's not apologizing. She's doubling down and tripling down on what it is that she said, and actually saying things that are actually worse. It'd be much better if she just discontinues. But anyhow, I've done a couple videos on this, and I'm going to do another one tomorrow morning, which will be an open panel for folks if you want to check it out. So let's go ahead and head over to your screen.
All right, cool, man. So we're actually going to talk about a few things in this realm with regards to the Euphrates River. This is actually kind of interesting. Actually, I don't think I had them both open. Let's see here. So Actually, I can just do it from this thing itself. You see this part of the Euphrates River. You see this building. It's inside the Euphrates River. Apparently, back in 2020, the water levels are about here, right? This is 2021 here. Let me show you 2022, assuming that it won't pop up an ad when I do this. I guess we'll see. You can see here, there's actually 4 more windows open. This is 2022, and it's actually lower than this now. And there's areas where it's actually like, there's a famous bridge. Let's see if I got that. Do I have that around here? Just give me a second. Do I have it open? Nope, that's not it. I think I have to like click forward to find it. But there's like a famous bridge in that area, and it's like there's literally not even a river. It's just puddles, like literal puddles. So the thing is getting drier and drier every year. And of course, there's actually a passage in the Bible that talks about that when this thing fully dries up, it talks about 4 angels that are bound in it will be released. They're prepared for an hour, a day, and a month, and a year. And it says that basically 1/3 of men will be gone. Essentially, could be whatever. I mean, what could that be? World, WAR number 3 or something? I don't know. Slay 1/3 of men, right? So it's kind of interesting. I had this open earlier, but I actually opened numerous videos. It'll probably show an ad if I forward it, though, I'm guessing. Nope, there you go. It didn't show an ad. That's not the one I wanted to show anyways. That's not the one either. There's one more, I think. And it shows an ad on the third one. I used to work for that company. Remember that?
2 Men in a Truck. That's right.
Yeah, I used to work for them. Wow, I'm going to watch ads here, folks. Oh my goodness, there's probably 2 ads too.
Okay, no.
This is not even it anyways. At any rate, so you saw there earlier where it showed that like sort of like what do you call it? Aqueduct that showed earlier. I just showed it on the previous video. That is probably from the ancient Babylon Assyrian city that was there. But this is actually not the video I was going to show either because I had so many windows open. I think it was this one. Yeah, this is the one. Okay, so check this out. This is actually the part right here. Let's see if I can get it on the screen a little bit better. Where is it at? Yeah, okay. Okay, so you see this bridge here? Mm-hmm. You see how there's water flowing in the river across here underneath the bridge? This is probably this photo is probably from either 2021 or maybe early 2022. I'm not sure. But right now in 2023, there's no river here. It's just puddles. Like I saw it. I don't know where I have to go find the picture, but there was literally no river. It's just puddles underneath that bridge now. And so it's clearly been changing quite a bit in with regards to that. So I just find it really interesting. Yeah, what's that?
Where's the water going?
Oh, it's just part of the river, Euphrates River, it goes
why is it receding?
It goes from the ocean. What's that?
No, I'm saying why is it receding? I'm saying
well, there's a dam. I know they're siphoning water off it. There's a country that's siphoning water off it. I'm trying to remember which country it was. They're siphoning water off it and using the water for just whatever they need water for, maybe for just in the city or whatever. So there's actually a country that's siphoning water off the Euphrates, and they've been doing it for a long time now. And that's what's drying it up, apparently. So we're actually going to talk about other stuff later. I got some really interesting things going on in Mecca that happened back in 2019 that are happening now. They have to do with the hail and locusts. I don't know if you ever heard about that before, but it actually looks kind of like the plagues that were in Egypt. And it actually goes in the same order. It was hail and then locusts. And it actually happened back in 2019 as well. And it's happening now in 2023, right now in Mecca, where their holy, of course, site is and everything. And then also there's another thing going on with the Brazil, Rio de Janeiro, that happened in 2019 that's happening in 2023 as well, where they're actually having flooding and stuff right after they had their carnival, and their carnival was exalting, or seemed to be exalting, at least some of the what do you call them, floats in the carnival were essentially exalting the devil and sort of putting down Jesus, things like that. And right afterwards, like a day or two afterwards, they had flooding. in the area. And this is from 2019 here. It actually literally push down Jesus and have the devil stabbing him with like this. This is back in 2019. They were doing this. That was during the Brazil Carnival, which of course that's where you have Christ the Redeemer statue, that really large statue you always see in movies. Mm-hmm. That's where it's at. It's in the same city, Rio de Janeiro. So, and there's also a guy who actually got injured too. I'll talk about that later. We can go over to some of the videos. There's a guy that actually got injured that was playing Jesus in the latest one in 2023, and I think he died. And they were mocking him, and he ended up dying. He was on one of the floats. But
just here, I've got one. I've got, let's see, not that. Hold up, it's along those lines.
Oh, you got a video on something like that?
Well, yeah, they're sort of making fun. Oh yeah, here it is. Okay, let's head on back over here. And I'm gonna do this right now. Warning: some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised. And yeah, this is what he's gonna do is he's gonna go through. Yeah, but I'll just play it. But yeah, here we go.
And y'all take a look at this blasphemous imagery of Jesus. This is on social media. Do y'all see how they make fun of Jesus? Why there's no backlash? Why they could put this on social media? But if you mention their name, I hope y'all know who I'm talking about here, they'll delete your content. But they can mock Jesus and say what they want to say about Christianity. And there's nothing done about it. Matter of fact, it's honored, it's glorified, and it's accepted in the culture. Notice they don't do this to any other belief but Christianity. It's always Jesus. These are sick, immoral people whose heart filled with iniquity and wickedness. But one thing Satan won't tell them, that judgment is coming. Yeah, laugh now, but one day you're going to be judged, not by this image, but by the real Jesus. And every one of you who laugh, every one of you who mock Jesus, you're going to give account for it. This is not going to continue without Jesus interrupting y'all party. Look at this imagery. And y'all don't think there's an agenda in mind? Just take a look at this, y'all. Pay close attention. I told y'all they warn against Christianity. We are in warfare. We can't take down. We can't be quiet. We have to take a stand for Jesus in this hour. If they can do this openly, then we can rebuke them openly. Y'all keep playing, but your day is coming. Jesus not perverted like y'all. Jesus is not immoral like y'all. Jesus is holy. Jesus is righteous. So don't try to bring him down to your perverted mindset, to your wicked heart. Y'all don't even know good from evil, evil from good. That's why y'all do this. This is blasphemous at its worst. You doing this because you trying to cast down truth. But I'm here to tell you, no matter how hard you try to remove the truth, God has a remnant that's going to stand up against you all and cry loud and spare not. The quiet days are over with. The silent days for believers are over with. We come to tear down y'all altars now. We're taking a stand against unrighteousness, and we're not afraid of y'all wicked agenda. Every one of you behind these wicked images, you are immoral. This is your wicked heart. You sick, not Jesus. This is your sickness, and it's manifesting. Y'all are just sick people. All of this is evil. Y'all look at this evil. This is what they think about the cross. This is what they think about Jesus. These are wicked-hearted people. That's why they could do it over and over again and laugh about it. They are blind and deceived. This is the hour we are living in. No respect for God. And I'm going to say this. A lot of people in this world have made up in their mind that they're going right where the devil is going. They're not going to change. Their hearts are made up that Satan is their Lord. There's a place you don't tap into. There's some things you don't do. There's some lines that you don't cross. And this person has crossed the line. They are portraying that Jesus and Satan are in a relationship. All of these images are immoral, blasphemous, and wicked. Not one of you who's behind these blasphemous images will get away. And you don't have an excuse, because the Bible says God will not be mocked. It's some things you don't do out of respect. You may not agree with it. You may not like it, but you should have respect. And God is warning every one of you who behind this right here to repent and turn from your wicked ways. It's your choice. God bless you.
I haven't even seen those pictures before. I guess I'm avoiding the stuff like that on the internet.
Yeah. Yeah. He said a few things. So one thing I was thinking is, it seems like there may be actually an uptick in people that are willing to actually say some real stuff, like ministers, um, folks that are pushing back against a lot of this kind of stuff. And
Well,
he's going.
you
Go
know,
ahead.
with the 501c3 thing, that was a way to get people to not to speak out, because you get your tax discount as a church, and then you won't say things that are political, but actually it's not really political. It's more of a cultural and moral thing. And so this is why a lot of ministers wouldn't speak out. It's because they're 501c3. They get their little tax break, and it's sort of, in a sense, a payoff to not say things. And they don't realize that's what they're doing, or maybe they do realize that's what they're doing. I don't know. But maybe the ones speaking out are obviously not part of that, I'm guessing, because then they'll get in trouble if they are.
Well, but here's the thing. That exempt status or whatever, they've never gone after anybody, or if they have, it's only been like once.
They've
And
done it they've done a couple example people. They make examples of people. And what's interesting is, of course, if it's a psychological thing. If they get you on board, then you're just going to be more quiet. But what's interesting also, though, is I feel like with those pictures, I've seen this all throughout time, not like those type of pictures, but people trying to make God in their own image. And like, I feel like that's kind of what's going on. You see it also just in ancient paintings. People make God white or black or whatever color they are themselves. They make
right.
God into their own image. And in this case, if they're gay or whatever, they try to make God into their own image, right? And this also, in a sense, indicates that they see Jesus as God. You see what I'm getting at? Because they make God, and why is it the only person's name that's ever taken in vain? Personal
Right.
wise, is him. It's not Buddha. It's not whoever. Um, and of course, there's also a really interesting video I saw. There's an apologetics video. Bart Ehrman. You've heard of Bart Ehrman? He
Yep.
was recently in a debate, and he was debating. I think the guy's name was something Bass, like Jonathan Bass. Bart Ehrman debate. It's recent. Yeah, here you are. It's this one right here. And this guy, Justin Bass, makes this really amazing argument. Of course, there's an ad. He makes this really amazing argument that with Apostle Paul, he was on the donkey and he saw a vision of Jesus, right?
Yeah.
And then he fell off the horse or donkey. And what's interesting is in the Middle East right now, there's thousands of people having this dream of a man in white with light surrounding him. And it's Jesus. And he's telling them things to do or whatever. And he's leading them towards Christianity. And what's amazing is, like, there's so many people having these dreams that they're putting up billboards just on the side of the road saying, hey, if you saw the man in light in your dream, call this number. And they'll like direct them to churches and stuff. And this is in an area where you can't even preach. You know what I mean? This is like in Mecca, you can't even go into that city. as a Christian, right? You can't even go into the holy site, for example. And so it's absolutely amazing. They're able to put billboards up. Did you see this dream? Call this number. And it's sort of like, but what's interesting is he was saying this is sort of an evidence of resurrection, because Saul at the time, who became Paul, saw this vision, and it was sort of considered like an evidence of the resurrection, because you had all these other people see him physically afterwards, right? And then you had people seeing visions. And he actually argues, and he's writing a book about it, that these thousands of dreams people are having is just an extension of what happened to Saul. And it just keeps going throughout history. It's kind of amazing. Nobody has these dreams about Buddha or, anything else. It's always about Jesus, right? So, and also a lot of the NDEs, if you ever watch any near-death experiences, they're like, there's never Buddha or, it's always Jesus. Same thing.
All right. So one thing I was thinking about was with that guy. It seems like there's a rise of people that are sort of pushing back against stuff, and anywhere from sort of pushing back against sort of like cancel culture, and pushing back against certain things that are involving kids and stuff like that. You have folks that are being more assertive about that, but then it seems like there's some more ministers that it seemed like are starting to be more outspoken. I played last week Geno Jennings, and I think I've played some Geno Jennings in probably half of our shows. And then this guy who is very, I mean, he's saying what it is, and you might disagree with him, but he's at least willing to be, to put his face out there, and to actually say stuff that I think is pretty clear from a Christian perspective. Now, maybe you're not Christian, maybe you don't believe that Christianity is true, and then so therefore you're not holding yourself to Christian principles. That's fine. But if you're calling yourself a Christian and you're participating in this wide array of what's now deemed as acceptable behavior, I think you need to I think you need to be careful. I think you need to sort of check yourself and see if you're actually, where are you actually at here?
If you got a pulse.
Yeah. Here, let me
I mean, where's it going to go next? Where's it going to go next? I mean, after this.
Yeah, let's play one more. Let's do, okay. So now of course I just said seems to be a rise of folks that are making sense and like saying, somebody says that they can't hear, but you can hear me, right?
I can hear you.
Okay, so then you need to reset. Truth is criminal. You need to you need to restart your browser or something so that you can hear, because if I can get some other folks that can hear to put a 1 in the chat, if you can hear, and that'll clear that up.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they can, because there's people commenting on what we're saying.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Unless they change. Yeah.
Okay. So here we go. Let's go. I'm gonna play this, and like I said, just as I was saying that there are. Thank you, Burpsy. Just as I was saying, there seems to be a rise in folks that are making sense. However, there also is a lot of false prophets and a lot of weird stuff that continues in churches. So I'm going to play this, and then we can talk about it.
When the Holy Spirit first fell on David Roos like that, God began to talk to us about a move of the Spirit that would come. But when we were in our 20s, he said that the greatest move that we would ever see would come upon the children behind us. the generation behind us.
Alrighty.
Alrighty then.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
You might get some whiplash doing that, man. I don't know.
Something. Goodness.
Probably not good for your neck. I don't
No.
know, man.
Well, you know, I said something last time about the whole things being done decently and in order. And if the purpose is for people to actually hear, comprehend, and take seriously what it is that you're saying, then that delivery might not be the way to accomplish that. Now, if what she's claiming is, I'm under the Spirit of the Lord right now, and I can't control my body because the Lord is making me do this.
Well, why would he do that, dude? It doesn't even make sense.
Exactly. What is the purpose of that? See, God is ordered, and He has a reason for what it is that He does. He doesn't. He's not playing around, and abstraction is not really. That's not really what He does. If there is abstraction and a lack of clarity, it's because we don't understand well enough what's going on.
Yeah. Like if there's a move of the Spirit and like there's not enough comprehension, then like sometimes God has to push through, and it may not make full sense at first, but it will eventually make sense. It won't be someone that doesn't make any sense and just continues not to make sense and shakes their head for no reason. I don't know.
All right, now I've got a few of those for today's show, so let's go ahead and head back over to you.
Oh yeah. I thought he had an interesting argument though. Go ahead.
I was thinking about this. By the way, something that you could do is, you could turn on your closed caption.
Oh
and you
yeah.
could
That
way, and then it would show the words.
Yeah. Like
But
you can see here.
not necessarily for that.
Yeah.
but
Right.
yeah.
I know what you're saying though.
Yep.
Oh my goodness. Is it going to reload? There we go. Yeah. Actually, this is from one of the this is from the latest carnival that was in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. And you can see they had a very huge, basically devil float. They actually had numerous floats that were kind of in this realm. And like I said, the day or so after this carnival, they had flooding in the area. And someone, of course, made a fake video. And I figured it out. Like, there's this viral video going around that says, "Oh, look, so you can see a fallen angel or demon fly through the flooded area," And I was thinking it's probably fake anyways, but I just wanted to see what it was. I think this is actually it right here, but it is fake. I paused it on a frame and you can see like literally a square. It's like super obvious. Let's see. Actually, I don't know. He doesn't show it in that spot. Where is it? Let's see if I can find it. I had a million windows open. I hope it doesn't refresh. That's from the flooding recently. Oh, there we go. This is it right here. See, look, you can see the square right around where it was edited. You see that square? Watch, I'll play it. You can see it, right?
Yeah, I see the square.
Yeah, that's I paused it exactly on the right frame apparently, but you can see it moving there. So, of course, it went viral. Oh, look, there's the devil. It's from 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 this carnival, and it caused the flooding. But I don't know. People just like viral videos. They want to make videos and put them up and apparently get a lot of views and fool people. I don't know. But yeah, but I mean, the fact is there was all this flooding that happened literally the day after the carnival. And there was something that did happen that was rather surprising. Someone did get injured. Okay. This guy who was pretending to be Jesus hanging on the float, and that's all he was doing. He was just hanging there. The floats, and then you can see here he was actually taken away to a hospital because he got injured from hanging for so long like that on the float. And there's rumors that he passed away. I don't know if that's true or not. He ended up in the hospital at least from doing this. The float was essentially, it was about Adam and Eve, and Adam and Eve were colored red with white eyes. And it was saying that it's okay to sin and that it's normal, it's natural to sin. That was basically the theme of the float. And they were putting Jesus hanging up there like that. Just, I guess to make fun of them. I don't know what they were doing by doing that, but probably not something good, obviously, considering the fact they were saying sin was okay, right? So probably, and then of course here's a post of someone saying he got injured and was taken to the hospital. It even tells you which hospital he was taken to. I can't remember what it was though. Oh, Santana Hospital Emergency Room, wherever that is, Rio de Janeiro. But at any rate, so you see a flood the next day. You see that happen. It makes you kind of wonder if that is sort of like a recompense for what they were doing, right? I don't know. I think it's very well possible. Who knows? What do you think?
Yeah,
That's the
yeah,
city it was in, where they have that large Christ the Redeemer statue.
yeah. It reminds me of, the movie, what is it? Uh, what is it? Vampire in Harlem or something? Um,
Oh, I don't know if I ever saw that one. There's a
uh,
lot of vampire movies, though. Was it a
hold on a
comedy or was it serious? Vampire in
hold
Harlem?
second. Vampire.
That sounds like one of those
Uh,
Wayans brothers movies or something. I don't know why I'm thinking that. Or maybe it was serious. Was that with Denzel Washington, like a serious one or something?
no, it was no. I'm sorry. What it was? Uh,
Can't spell it. Harlem? It was an interview with a vampire, right?
no, Vampire in Brooklyn. Vampire in Brooklyn.
Brooklyn. Oh yeah,
Um,
okay. It just showed that.
and
It
it
just
was
showed that one.
with Eddie Murphy. He was the main.
Yeah, comedy. I was thinking it had to be a comedy. It had Eddie Murphy in it.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. Vampire in Brooklyn. And there's this scene where he is so, he's in the pulpit, and he's a vampire, right? He's in the
He's in the
pulpit,
pulpit.
right? He's in the pulpit and in church, and then he starts saying, and then they go outside or something, and he starts saying, "Evil is good. Evil is good." Like this, and then like the uh you could hear like some lightning or something, like some thunderbolt or something, because
That's
he's
the
like,
verse right there.
this guy,
That's the verse right there talking about that. What are
yeah,
those who call evil good and good evil?
yep,
Yeah, I mean, but I mean, that's actually what I think is really going on. I think there are literally witches and Satanists that are ministers and they pretend to be Christian ministers. I know it's true. I mean,
mm,
it's so obvious. It's so obvious. I mean, you have particularly the top level guys that are well known. Quite a few of those guys I'm thinking are frauds, like just guaranteed. And the fact is, you see what they promote, you see what they do, you see how they like cheat on their wives, they do all these things, and it's like so obvious that it's just an easy way to get people away from God. You have this high level, high profile minister doing everything wrong, going off track, and people follow him for a while until they go off track, and then it just causes everyone to go off track with him. Or like, oh, he's just a fraud, and then of course you have the devil in the pulpit, kind of like what you're saying, Eddie Murphy there playing a
yep.
vampire, and then you got the devil outside the pulpit, and he's like, yeah, look, see, he's a hypocrite, look, just come over here, believe in atheism and whatever, and we're great over here, we're good people. And it's the devil who is literally over there and over here at the same time, and he's being the hypocrite in the church to bring people outside the church, and then he tells them to come over to him or outside. That's how he works. That's how I think it works, at least.
I'm okay. I've got a couple more things to play here, that are along these sort of lines.
All right, cool. Let's see it.
Let's see. And I'm gonna do this.
Warning. Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
And I'm doing this because it's not my intention to besmirch anyone or to belittle anyone's, their journey or what it is that they decide that they want to do. I draw the line when we start talking about trying to proselytize kids, trying to, convert kids and trying to, to do weird stuff and expose them to stuff that the parents don't know about and all that. That's where I draw the line. But if you as an adult, if this is what you want to do, fine. Where I draw the line with that is if we're talking about Christianity, if we're talking about traditional Christianity, there's just certain things that don't fly. It's just very clear what it is that Christianity preaches. Now, you may disagree with Christianity, you may not like Christianity, you may think that it's misogynistic, homophobic, transphobic, whatever labels you want to give to it. But up until 5 minutes ago, everyone clearly understood that there were certain things that clearly were not acceptable. And we have sort of blown the doors open and wildly accepted all kinds of things that are crazy. So I'm just going to, that's my caveat. I'm just going to play this. I'm not making fun of anybody. I'm just playing this for reference. Here we go.
When they say you can never be transgender and love God, well, I am and I do. Bishop Paris LaBelle.
Millions didn't make it. Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, that's different.
Now, and I'm going to juxtapose that with this. And remember I was saying that there's been a rise of folks that are willing to stick their neck out and say real stuff. And again, I'm going to do this.
Warning. Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Okay. And this is his words. I'm just playing what he's saying. Here we go.
Some say Jesus didn't directly address transgenderism, homosexuality. And I would just have to disagree with you. Because in Mark chapter 10, verses 6 and 7, he says, "But at the beginning of creation, God made them male and female." What is Jesus saying? Well, he's saying the way that God created the world at the beginning was not a mistake. That a man is a man, a woman is a woman. That is truth. I think Jesus would say to Caitlyn Jenner, "Caitlyn, I made you a male on purpose and for a purpose." Well, if I'm made in your image, why do I have this agonizing desire that you say is against your plan? We are all born with a propensity or a bend towards sin. For some, that may look like a bend towards alcoholism. For others, it may look like a bend towards tempers. For another, it may look like a bend towards same-sex attraction. For another, it may look like gender dysphoria. The propensities may be different, but the response from the gospel is still the same. I am to reject things that are not of God's will and God's plan for my life, and pick up God's will and his plan.
Well, I have a few things to say here about this. I find this to be a curious topic because, I mean, there's a difference between, well, I don't know, I want to say it this way. There's a difference between transgender and gay, but at the same time, though, I feel like it's the devil exploiting misunderstandings, like with regards to the Bible. And I feel like the devil has sort of taken away Christians' ability to understand the Bible and allowed ministers to just tell us what the Bible says. And then this has caused it to where there's like, oversimplification of things. So what I think is really going on, like, for example, with this whole transgender thing, I think it actually could be, because we didn't really see it too much when we were younger, right? We didn't see a bunch of people saying they're transgender, right?
No.
Yeah. So I'm thinking it's more than just simply people just having wrong desires. I think it's more like the devil purposely set up things to cause this to happen. So you have a lower testosterone level among males now, right? So I think that was purposely done to cause things like this to happen. And then you have lower testosterone levels. You have the rise of social media, being able to put whatever into people's heads they want you to think. And then if you take into consideration how they can modify foods now, they put stuff in the air, they do all these things. How do you not know that they've actually modified people through all these weird things that they do in our environment around us? And this has caused testosterone levels to go lower. And then this actually makes it easier for you to be going a different direction like that. You see what I mean? So maybe at one point there was not very many people, or almost nobody. There might have been a few, but not far less people that were thinking or had the propensity to think they were transgender. But today it's like far more than it used to be, right? So I think it's like the devil kind of like manipulating and complicating things and trying to make the Bible look bad, you know what I mean? By doing things like this. So I think it's more complex than it seems. I don't think it's just simply, someone has a desire that's wrong. I think there's something that was changed in them, like physically changed their environments, like modifying things. You know what I mean?
Mm.
That's kind of how I look at it, but I think it's a
Yeah,
little complex.
yeah. I think it's much more complex than just cut and dry.
Yeah,
And
me too.
um, and I think that I don't like these overly simplified sort of explanations of things. So like, hey,
It's right versus left, right? It's just the simple Coke, Pepsi, right, left, blah, blah, blah. Don't think for yourself. Just believe whatever we tell you, whichever side you want to choose.
yeah, I don't tend to gravitate towards overly simplified explanations. I recognize that there's a great deal of nuance, and I would not wish on my worst enemy uh, a gender dysphoria or any of that.
Well,
It's
go
you
ahead.
know
I want to say something after you're done, though. Go ahead.
yeah. It's just um, now with respect to the Christian worldview, uh, it's very clear. It's very clear what the ideals are, what the values are, what the principles, what's considered good and bad, what's considered sinful, what's considered right. That stuff is very clear. And so where I draw the line is, you know, I don't feel like I need to judge you, but I don't but I also don't think that we need to just um allow folks to attempt to rewrite doctrine and history, the history of doctrine, to make it seem like it fits with all manner of new sort of behaviors and
Well,
new, yeah.
I mean, but at the same time, though, what we're told is Christian. I don't actually think in some cases actually is Christian. Like, of course, things like adultery, it's like very obvious, right? But
Right.
something like, well, marriage is between a man and a woman. Okay, I agree with you on that. But then it says, but marriage is between one man and one woman. And then they just completely ignore the rest of the Bible where that wasn't the case. You have polygamy in the polygyny in the Old Testament. And to say that Christian marriages today, the way they teach about it is like the same as the Old Testament, is like completely not true. It's 100% not true. It's not even close to the same thing. Uh, I see it as like basically they've made their own viewpoint of marriage, and it may be within the Bible as okay, but that doesn't. But they try to tell you that that's the only way it can be, and I feel like because they did that, because they had no nuance and they made it very simplistic like that, that's the reason why we have all these problems in society today. The whole reason we have some problems in society today is because they oversimplified it, and then when people had questions, they're like, "Shut up, we're right." Basically is the way they approached it. Shut up or right. And because they did that, then these people are like, well, I can't agree with you. And then they went their own way. And then it just caused this huge separation in our society where you have essentially what we're seeing today. You got this, LGBT, whatever Q thing. And then you got those on the other side. And it's just like they're getting farther and farther apart and fighting more and more. And because they don't have, because we have, supposedly on our side, it kind of reminds me of the Republican Democrat side. It's the same thing. Like on the Republican, they claim to be like, the religious right or whatever. But actually, no. Republicans are like often not good either. You know what I mean? Like, But
Well,
then
yeah.
at the same time,
Oh, book.
it's like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's like a fake Christian pretending to be Christian, and then they throw. Okay, you have like a fake Christian scaring all away everybody. It's like Jesus talking about the Pharisees and the Sadducees. It's like that. It's like you got the Pharisee with his righteousness or fake righteousness scaring away all the Sadducees or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, or heathen or whatever you want to call it. And I feel like they're the ones that are causing all the trouble. It's this separation that's causing all the trouble instead of being able to debate it, talk about it in nuance. And instead they want to shut down your talking as well online. That's another thing they want to do is stop you from talking. So I think it's far more nuanced. I see the whole gay topic personally as kind of a gray area. I don't believe in marriage between gays or whatever, but I see the whole transgender thing as separate from gay. You know what I mean? Because it seems like a whole different thing to me. It just seems way different. And then of course you see a lot of the really things today that are happening in the transgender culture where you're talking about kids and stuff. That just is really, really, really evil. So that's just kind of how I look at it. But
Yeah, it's like I was saying, where I draw the line is when you're trying to talk to my kid, and I did not give
right,
you permission to talk to my kid. That's where and there's a really clear list of things that you're not allowed to talk to my kid about. You're not allowed to expose him to that. You're not allowed to show him pictures or entertain conversation. You're just not allowed to do that.
adult conversations. Yeah.
Right. You're just not allowed to do it. You're not allowed to do it. I
Of
had
course.
and I was
I
talking
agree.
on, yeah, I was, this past weekend, I played, at a museum, and, and it's a place that I've played a lot of times. Um, and people think that this stuff is not like that. People are overstating this sort of aggressive play towards kids that a lot of the this sort of trans agenda seems to be doing. And there's a dude dressed in full drag, like a like a character out of a storybook or something, um and with like a basket or something. Uh, he goes in the museum the same time I did. I get in there, and there's a section over there where they've got a bunch of kids, and this dude is sitting down, and some other folks dressed in drag, like they're about to have some, you know, and it's like, dude, this is like this particular place. It's a bunch of kids. That's what it is. It's like a kids kind of place, and it's like nobody else sees the problem. Sees the problem with this. I mean, it's like I don't, I'm not going to tell you what you should do in your own home, not around kids,
But they're going to
or
tell us what they can do. But they're going to tell us what they can do with our kids.
right. And well, and I'll
What the
tell you
hell?
what really is
We don't do that
frustrating.
to their kids, right? We don't do that to their family members and say, we're going to tell them what to do. Because then they would say, oh, you're one of those religious crazy people, you know? But they're doing the same thing, the opposite direction.
Yeah. I was thinking about this, and obviously none of the kids show up to this unless the parents of those kids thinks it's totally fine for some dude dressed in full drag to be reading stories to them. And I'm like,
It's
I
political,
just
man.
don't know. I just don't know when that became a thing. Like,
I don't get it either. I don't
why is
understand it.
that a thing? That is so obviously, like, why would that? I mean, it's so needless. It's like, I mean, it could be anything else. Anybody could be reading stories to kids and nobody would have an issue. That is the thing that's an issue. So then that's the thing that they just are aggressive about. And
I,
I don't get it.
I saw like 15 years ago, I saw something that kind of made me understand why this started and why it happened. I
Mm.
saw this guy. Okay, so it's like this lady that went to the church, and she had a son, and his son, I went to her house, and they had like a cookout or whatever, and he was there. He was in college, and he was talking to me, and he was saying some really kind of strange things. And I was like, what is this guy talking about? He's talking, and he's basically talking against Christianity. And it was like, essentially like, because Christians don't accept this, that, and the other. And like I said, it all comes down to a breakdown of communication, and the simple, and having this like, we're right, it's very simple, this is it. And then of course the other side's like, you're wrong. And it's all emotional based. It's not really arguing or it's not really talking about things through. And he was like basically being brainwashed by professors in college. And they're like basically, telling them all the bad history of what Christians have done all through history, all the bad stuff they've done. And then he has this whole idea that like, this is wrong, we're bad people, so we need to be doing something else. And then it's like this self-righteous thing in their mind, like, oh, I'm so good because I realize the evil of our culture. And then of course they go embrace every other culture that's not any better. It's even often worse. You know what I mean? And
Right.
and then it leads to this, because they have no foundation. They have no moral foundation. They don't have a religion. They're just like, I know this religion's bad and I'm everything but that. So I'm going to go support whatever anybody who's against this religion says. And that would include whatever is being said currently in the media. And so the religion is basically anything that's against Christianity that goes with the media. And I don't think it necessarily is how a lot of people are thinking about it, but that's kind of what it came from, I think.
Yeah. All right, I've got a short one, and then I want to give it back to you. And again, this is an example of, now we just played a clip where it seems like a guy is now, albeit in overly simplified sort of addressing of the issue, but at least he was willing to say, this is what our beliefs are, and so I have to commend him for that, being willing to do that, especially in this day and time. But now back to some goofy stuff, and this is a guy named Rod Parsley.
Oh, that guy, I remember him.
Yeah, he's the minister here.
Is he still
go ahead and
around?
play this. To my knowledge, I don't know, man.
The dude's got to be getting pretty old by now, man. I remember seeing him like 20, 30 years ago on TV.
Yeah. Here we go.
Shout hallelujah! Hallelujah! Now that loud, let that Holy Ghost language come up out of you. Do it now!
Okay. Now, okay, this is a little bit of comedy. I'm gonna play it one more time. Okay.
I don't think it was coming up right, man.
Yeah.
I think it sounded more like a cock-a-doodle-doo there or something a little bit.
Notice the caption. When that old gobbler hangs up and you have nothing to lose. Okay, here we go.
Hallelujah! Hallelujah! Now that loud, let that Holy Ghost language come up out of you. Do it now!
I don't think it's working, man. He's got to try a little harder. I actually have spoken tongues myself. I know how to do it, but that's not it, dude. That's just like gobbler chicken stuff there. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is, man, dude.
All right.
He's put on the spot. He's put on the spot, man. That wasn't fair, He's put on the spot.
Yeah, what I mean, he tells him, he says, do it now. It's like, okay, son, you're in control. I see.
Oh my goodness, dude. No, I mean, it is real, but it's not some goofy show thing. It's supposed to be, done in order and stuff like the Bible says. It's supposed to be either God praying for you through you in your closet, not out loud on TV for Rod Parsley, to enjoy or something, or it's supposed to be used for like in Acts where they were in an area where there's people literally speaking another language like Arabic or Spanish or whatever, and you can't speak the language, and then you start speaking the language. And they understand what you're saying. It's not gobble, 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 gobble like that or something, right? So So, at any rate, okay. But yeah. At any rate,
So
so yeah. Go ahead. What were you saying?
what you got for us, man?
I don't know. Uh, I just feel like this world. I feel like the devil has basically played the church, and I feel like God is making progress in America, though. Like I feel like with the Roe v. Wade being overturned, I think that was one aspect. I think another huge aspect is what you're covering right now, which is all these fake ministers, all there for money, and they're not. They need to be. They need to fall. These fake ministers need to fall. And they're the ones leading and making the church look bad. They're making church look bad via hypocrisy. They're giving out silly doctrines. And even the ones that do know something give out very basic doctrines, and they haven't really studied the scriptures too well. These people need to fall, and I feel like God is going to make them fall. And I feel like that includes even institutional religions like Pope Francis, with him being basically not Catholic at all, just completely false doctrine all the time. That guy needs to fall as well. And maybe there's some darkness in the Vatican we need to see exposed. I had a dream about the Vatican, and what's so weird about it, this new movie coming out with the guy from Gladiator. Who is that guy? What's the guy from Gladiator? What the hell is his name? I can't remember his name. I can look it up. Russell Crowe.
Yeah.
He's in a new movie about an exorcism in
Oh yeah. It's what is it? Exorcist 3 or 4 or something? It's one of the Exorcist movies. Yep. I know what you're talking about.
It's right here. What is this? The Pope's Exorcist.
Yep.
And what's really weird about this, I saw the preview, and it actually had an area that looked like my dream. Like there's an area where they find a secret compartment under the Vatican or something, and it's like all ancient. I actually had a dream like 6 months ago, and I saw something similar to what was in the preview. And God was telling me that there's some secrets in the Vatican that are going to be revealed soon. And I actually was really interesting is in the dream, I was given a number of breadcrumbs, and I actually looked up all the stuff, and it led me to Joan of Arc, and it led me to understanding some stuff about her history. I think that it's kind of different. I don't know. I don't even know if I talked to you about it. Did I ever talk to you about the Millennial Kingdom?
I don't think so.
Well, I believe the Millennial Kingdom, and the dream actually confirmed it, was during the Middle Ages, the medieval times. That's 1,000 years. It said the 1,000-year Millennial Kingdom, right?
Yeah, you did. No, you did talk to me about this. Yeah.
Well, in the dream, it was about a court case, and there was a woman and a man, and the woman was exalted and the man was condemned. And the woman that was exalted was Joan of Arc after I followed all the breadcrumbs, because she was in a movie in the dream, and she was in a movie, and people were talking about her hearing voices, and was it from God or was it from the devil, right? And the man who was condemned, his name is Gileas. It was her compadre during the wars. And he was the first serial killer in like 1,000 years. And he went around killing kids. He's like a complete psycho. I don't even want to get into it. It's really bad what he was doing, but he was friends with her. Okay. He was friends with her, and she was the first woman to be a military leader. And it was around 1450 AD. And what God was telling me is that basically the first end time was 450 AD at the fall of the Roman Empire. And you can actually see it. It talks about the little horn getting power from 3 other horns. And you can even follow in ancient history, you can even follow that the Germanic tribes, 3 Germanic tribes conquered Rome, and each of the 3 leaders of these German tribes gave the power to the Pope at that time. And that's around the time that the church got corrupt, was around 450. And there's actually a Pope named Pope 666. Pope Sixtus III was at around that time frame as well. And I believe, this is just my theory based on all the stuff I've been doing studies on, is that that's when the devil fell and Jesus set up his kingdom for 1,000 years, was during the medieval times. That's why we have all the most brilliant artwork and architecture is during that time frame. And it's just like 1,000 years of a kingdom of Christianity, right? And then it fell around the time the devil got out of the bottomless. It says the Lucifer's put in the bottomless pit for 1,000 years during the millennial kingdom. A lot of people think that's going to be in the future. I think it actually already happened, And so essentially the devil was put in the bottomless pit, and then he got out around 1450 AD. And in my dream, it was basically God telling me that's when he got out, is when Joan of Arc was around. And then Gileas may have been the first person who was the first serial killer in 1,000 years. Because it says during the Millennial Kingdom, no one will hurt anybody in my kingdom. And there were no serial killers for like 1,000 years. If you go look at like history, there's like a serial killer in like 400 AD, and then there's like a serial killer in 1450 AD. There's like none in between. And that is just really amazing, though. Go ahead.
Yeah. And so then if it's going to be another 1,000 years, so then from 1450 to then it would be 2450, right?
Well, no. Well, it says that after he gets out of the bottomless pit, there's a short time. We don't know how long a short time is, but I figure a short time is less than a day, and a day is 1,000 years. And it's already been 560 years, I think. Wait, how long has it been? 1450 plus, 580 years or whatever. We're in 2023 right now. So it hasn't been a full day, or 1 day is 1,000 years. So the devil has a short time, and then we'll be to the final end. And then in the final end is the Gog-Magog invasion, which is where essentially Russia and the Arab nations attack Israel, which I think they would attack first America and then Israel. So you see Russia and China and all the Arab nations already kind of aligned towards that. So I'm not saying this is what's going to happen. This is just kind of my thoughts, but I could be wrong. I don't know.
Oh, it's fascinating. Here, I'm gonna go ahead and jump back over to a couple of these. So one of them is, okay. Hold up here. What is that? What is this? Yeah. So I'm gonna. Okay. So here, this is what I'll do. I'm gonna play this one first. I think this is, I don't even remember what this is at this point, but I'm gonna go ahead and play
somebody and tell them, bring your ass to church.
Okay, here we go. Yeah.
I know some of y'all never heard this type of message before. Just ride with me for a little while, because what you must understand, Jesus sent for the ass.
Okay, so
what?
Again, okay, I'll play it again. Now, the reason that I'm playing this, again, the reason that I'm playing this is, again, it's to underline this issue that it's like everything and anything is just like, you can say anything. You can be behind the pulpit. You can say any kind of weird, strange, crazy stuff, and like nobody will check you. Like you can just do it wild and free. And then also because there's no historical continuity, there's no apostolic succession, there's no, even knowledge of the, of the early church. There's no, understanding of early church doctrine. There's no, none of that. But folks don't. You can ask directly. You can ask them. Can you talk to me about the formation of the new canon of the New Testament canon of Scripture? Can you tell me what date it was ratified in? Can you tell me about the councils associated with that? Can you tell me about the other books? Because the process was, the principle was, when in doubt, leave it out, right? That was the process. So, and that's why can you tell me about any of these other books that were not considered pseudepigraphia, but were still respected, honored books, like the Epistle of Barnabas, Barnabas? Can you talk to me about that? How about these supposed apocryphal books? The deuterocanonical books, which actually were just part of the Old Testament canon of Scripture. When Timothy says all Scripture, he's talking about the Septuagint. The Septuagint has all those books in it. So you have any of that kind of conversation, they don't know what the heck you're talking about. You might as well be talking a foreign language. But these are the ones that are standing up.
They know about Kim Kardashian, though. They know about Kim Kardashian. So
gracious. All right, so here, let me play it again.
Somebody and tell them, bring your ass to church. I know some of y'all never heard this type of message before. Just ride with me for a little while, because what you must understand, Jesus sent for the ass.
Oh, he's talking about a donkey, right? Is he talking about the donkey? Oh,
Yeah,
goodness gracious. Come on,
yeah,
man.
he's throwing some crazy stuff. Okay, now here's the last
That's like
video.
the verse that says there's a lot of grass in the area, and the guy thought it was marijuana or something. There's a lot of grass in the area.
Okay, so here's the last one that I have. In David E. Taylor, false prophet. Now there was a big expose that pocket watching with JT, and I interviewed JT. If y'all want to check that out, and what he does is he's an accountant, and what he does is he goes and he figures a bunch of stuff out, and he has done a bunch of expose stories. And this is one of the guys that he did an expose on, and it's really telling, like into the finances, like really looking at the dollars, like should this guy be doing this? Is this legal? Is this not legal? How did this how did this money get spent without oversight? I mean, he asks all those kind of questions. So if you guys want to check him out, but anyhow, I'm gonna play the video. Have fun.
Because I am not a false prophet. The Lord spoke to me just now. And just because someone is called a pope don't really mean they're the pope. It's who God gives the power to. He gave it to me. I'm not a liar. Jesus came to me. So I started to realize I'm the pope.
Okay.
I don't need no robes. I'm the pontiff. I've been chosen by God to hold the highest rank out of all preachers in the world. But I'm bold enough to say that because the Son of God came to me. And when I give a word to somebody, they should obey. When they don't, they're disrespecting the highest order in the land.
As a prophet, I'm commanding you to give it. You don't have to wait on God to talk to you. I'm his representative. If you obey my words, God will bless your finances. As a matter of fact, he'll make you a millionaire. If you're already a millionaire, he'll make you a multi-hundred-million millionaire or a billionaire if you obey my voice. Lord, tonight I stand in my office as a king and an emperor. I come against sickness all over the world. I come against disease all over America. And God, hear what I say, God is going to make you bow to me. Oh, brother, you shouldn't talk like that. I'm going to keep talking like this.
I ain't scared of no prophet. They scared of me. They're going to do what I tell them to do. I'm king here.
Wow. He's fit to be he's fit to be the Pope back in the 450 time. No, I'm just joking, man. Yeah, I mean, he sounds like he thinks he's all that, and he thinks he's something big.
It's terrible. It's terrible, and but this is what it is.
That's why you have a balance of powers with the bishops, like the Orthodox do. I like that because it's not. The whole balance of powers thing is actually really good if it's set up right, and you see it in America as well. The balance of powers, you have 3 different branches, but you also had it in the Orthodox Church with the bishops, and I think that's a good thing. I mean, look at what happened to the pontiff himself. I mean, he exalted himself, above everybody else. It's the same idea.
Yeah, it's interesting. That whole, there was 5 patriarchates, and Rome was just the largest of the 5. And there was this principle, first among equals, but first among equals was not an assessment of power. It wasn't to say that because it was the largest jurisdiction that it had more sway with respect to councils, with respect to development of doctrine, with respect to a long list of things. And so the Roman Church began to interpret first among equals as meaning more authority, basically whatever they say goes, as opposed to what the the early church conception of that was. And that's basically what kind of festered, metastasized, and led to the Great Schism in 1054. But yeah, and you can track all of these significant evolutions of doctrine and innovations
Yeah.
of doctrine. You can track them from there, and even, for instance, the Crusades, which were that was stuff, Roman Catholic, that was stuff, and it was post schism, right? And so this is a bunch of stuff that you can kind of trace to
Well,
that.
marriage too for priests. The marriages of priests were ended shortly after the schism, like 1120 A.D. They forced priests to divorce their wives, and some priests even had more than one wife. Like they would have like two wives, or a wife and a concubine, or whatever. However they did it back then, they actually had more than one wife, and they didn't consider it a sin unless it. Well, some of the early fathers would talk like bigamy, trigamy was okay, but anything past 3 was not good, or something like that. That's how some of them would argue. And they would actually say polygyny was after trigamy or something. This is how some of them would argue, and a lot of people don't even know that. And what's interesting is 1 Timothy 4, I think it's 1 Timothy or 2 Timothy 4, says, in the latter times some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to doctrines of devils and deceiving spirits, forbidding to marry and commanding to abstain from meats. And it was after they had the schism, they forbidded priests to marry, and they commanded to abstain from meats. And that's like, no one ever sees that as understanding what it's really saying in that passage. Most people use that verse completely incorrectly. They don't ever use it and refer to the fact of forbidding to marry or any of that stuff. They just say they fall away, doctrines of devils, and they don't even read the rest of the passage. But it's interesting, the Latin school of theology, because you have like different schools of theology. The School of Alexandria, Antioch. There's like a bunch of schools of theology, and Rome went around closing them all and just kept the one they liked, which is the Latin school of theology, which was where St. Augustine came out of. And St. Augustine was a Neoplatonist, Gnostic, Manichaean Gnostic before he became a Christian. And he brought in these ideas of like the flesh is evil and the spirit is good, which he actually believed like hell was physical torture, like physical torture. So he always looked at the flesh needs to be tortured, and good pleasure's not a good thing. It's from the devil. And he had this like Gnostic idea of on when the Bible says, be fruitful and multiply and all that kind of stuff. So this whole negative thing on sex in the Bible is actually from the school of theology that Rome promoted throughout the church, and all the other schools of theology were shut down. And a lot of people don't even know anything about this. I've talked about this on my channel a lot, but
Yeah,
the only place you can find this is in the Orthodox Church. The Orthodox Church, there's some parts of the Orthodox Church that talk about this a little bit.
Yeah. So it's interesting because we consider Augustine to be a saint, but also we recognize that there's some things problematic about some of his doctrine. So some certain things that he espoused. But so that's an interesting thing. But that whole sort of dualism, that whole thing is interesting because it's notably missing in the Orthodox, sort of conception. And even this whole spirit, soul, body, as the spirit is the highest, the soul, and then the body. But really, it's more of a holistic thing. It's more like the spirit doesn't exist without the soul and the body. The soul doesn't exist without the spirit and the body. The body doesn't exist without the soul and the spirit. You can't really have any of those things without the other, because they're all interwoven and they require each other for their existence. And
What do you guys think of Gregory of Nicaea? Do you think he's a saint, Saint Gregory of Nicaea?
Gregory of Nyssa or Gregory of Nicaea?
Oh, actually, I thought it was the same person. Maybe not. I'm thinking of the guy that believed. There's actually Origen. Origen, right? Clement of Alexandria. That's what I'm thinking of. Clement. I'm sorry. Clement of Alexandria. What do you guys think of him? Do you think he's a saint?
Yeah, I mean Clement would be a saint.
You guys don't. You don't. What do
Gregory.
you think of Origin? I'm curious what you think of Origin.
Origin is not a saint. Origin is yeah. I mean yeah.
But he was from the same school as Clement of Alexandria, I think. Yeah, the School of Alexandria, right? Clement.
Yeah, so but it's interesting. I mean, the Orthodox thing is you can look at certain characters. You can say, okay, I see why he's a saint. There's obvious, because there's a process, there's a vetting process, and it's a centuries long thing. Often it takes a long time for them to decide if they're going to do it or not. And they weigh all of these things and they say, okay, yeah, this issue right here is questionable because obviously nobody's perfect, right? There's some
Yeah.
questionable stuff here, but this is really strong, and so we're going to say this is this is good. And I'm not, I'm so and here's the other thing. I mean, I think you can also criticize the Catholic Church and then also recognize there's obviously a lot of good stuff about the Catholic Church.
Well, it's like Jesus said, a little yeast causes a whole lump to go, rise, right? So I feel like the Catholic Church is kind of like the Orthodox with yeast. And although I'm not saying the Orthodox is perfect, because I think there's issues there somewhat in some respects, but I think the organization and structure is good. I think it's more sound. You know what I mean? And like with Clement and like Origen, if you look into Origen's story, he was only condemned 300 years after the fact by Emperor Justinian, and it was never ratified by the Pope, by the way. So they, at the Fifth Ecumenical Council, they tried to deem him a heretic, right? And they tried to deem all the Origenists heretics, but for it to be ratified, the Pope has to sign it along with all the other bishops, right? The Pope refused to sign it because he actually believed similar to some of the things Origen taught apparently back then. And I think I look at Origen kind of like Nikola Tesla, in that he had things that were maybe too powerful that certain people didn't like, because the Catholic Church wanted to be able to control people. I feel like they actually took the doctrine that helped them to control things. So hell is eternal torment. You're tormented forever. You don't do what we say, you're going to go and burn in hell forever. So it's a good way to scare people to do the right thing. And if you look at the Greek philosophers, they talked about a good way to get the savage people to do the right thing is to scare them. You can't talk them into doing the right thing. You got to scare them because they're too not smart enough to understand or something. And this is how some of the philosophers taught. And I think Rome took this approach to using doctrine to control people. And this is also, I think, what they did with the priests, and they forbid them to marry in 1120. That was all about controlling church property and controlling the priests, and then the priests don't have power. So then the government over the church controls everybody. So if a priest has some property, has a wife, has offspring, there's power there, and the government don't like family. I told you about the government versus family structure. The governments see the family as an enemy, and because the family structure, I mean, look at Egypt. The perfect story about this is Moses in Egypt. There's a family, Abraham's family. They go to Egypt, right? Because of Joseph, right? Coat of many colors. He predicts the famine, right? And then years later, the Israelites grow too big. The family of Israel grows too big. Egypt's like a government, like, we can't control these people. We need to get rid of these people or turn them into slaves. And so I kind of see it like the family is always the enemy of the government. And this is why I think a lot of the stuff's the way it is. And I think that's why I think the Catholic Church did the same thing. They tried to do a top-down control thing like that. That's just my thoughts. But
yeah, no, I think I was thinking about somebody else. Yeah, Origin would be a shared. He would be sainted in both. So all saints prior to 1054 would be shared by both Orthodox and Roman Catholic. After
right,
that,
Augustine, right, yeah,
that's when it would change.
But Origen was like a controversial figure. He had all of his works burnt, just like Nikola Tesla had all his works burnt. Nikola Tesla was doing free energy, and they didn't like that a lot. The ones that had power and money were like, we don't like that. We can't make money off free energy. So they burned a lot of his materials and books. I think he was probably one of the smartest people I ever lived, was Nikola Tesla. But I think Origen's the same thing. A lot of his writings were burnt, so he must have said something in there they didn't like. because he's
Yeah,
actually one of the most influential people in the church too.
alleged self-castration.
Yeah, I know, that's crazy. That was one of the things he did. I was like, why did you do that, man? That's insane.
Well, it says alleged. It says alleged, so maybe it's not actually true.
He wanted to prove
But
the church was pure, and so he did that. And I'm like, bro, seriously, you don't need to do that. That's insane.
see, deliberate attempt by Eusebius to distract from the serious questions regarding the orthodoxy of Origen's teachings. McGuckin also states we have no indication that the motive of castration for respectability was ever regarded as standard by a teacher of mixed gender classes. He adds that Origen's female students, whom Eusebius lists by name, would have been accompanied by attendants at all time, meaning that Origen would have had no good reason to think that anyone would suspect him of impropriety.
So you think it's fake? You think that's fake?
It says alleged, so so
It's
I don't
weird.
know. I don't know. Since
He
the
has a
beginning,
lot of writings that were deleted though, or burnt and removed.
yeah.
He must have been saying some pretty powerful stuff if they burned it up and got rid of it.
Oh yeah. So hold up. Eusebius claims that as a young man, following a literal reading of Matthew 19:12, in which Jesus is presented as saying, "There are eunuchs who have made themselves eunuchs for the sake of the kingdom of heaven." Origen either castrated himself or had someone else castrate him in order to ensure his reputation as a respectable tutor to young men and women. Eusebius further alleges that Origen privately told Demetrius, the bishop of Alexandria, about the castration, and that Demetrius initially praised him for his devotion to God and account of it. Origen, however, never mentions anything about having castrated himself in any of his surviving writings, and his exegesis of the verse in his commentary on the Gospel of Matthew, written near the end of life, he strongly condemns any literal interpretation of Matthew 19:12, asserting that only an idiot would interpret the passage as advocating literal castration. So that's why
So maybe he didn't.
Yeah, so that's why it seems perhaps doubtful that he did.
And actually, that verse you were talking about, the eunuchs verse, is the one that makes me think this is the verse talking about gay people, because it says they don't have. It talks about men who don't want to marry women, and it talks about their place in society. Like you had the Ethiopian eunuch in Acts that I can't remember. Was it Stephen or something? I don't remember who it was. Somebody went and preached to him, Philip or somebody. You remember? You know what I'm talking about? He was like he's like a Ethiopian eunuch. He was like serving a king or whatever. And someone, I think Philip or somebody, preached to him and then was transferred away. It's in Acts.
Oh, right.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Well, see, the eunuchs were known to protect women in like harems and things like that because they had no desire for women, right? So this is kind of like my seeing the cosmic order for those who are gay, is there is a place to where there are men that don't desire women, that are roles, there's jobs they can do, like they can protect women because they have no desire for them, right? So it makes sense that they would be the perfect person in that case. And they're a man, so they're able to protect a woman because they're a man, but they also don't have any desire for the woman, so they could protect another man's woman. You see what I mean?
Right.
So, and that's how that's a lot of the roles they were used in ancient times, was for that type of role. There was other roles too. They're also very artistic, which you see commonly. People that are more artistic tend to lean towards that direction, right? And you see Ethiopian eunuch, I think he was saying something about he was the writer of the king or something. It sounded like something that was based more in the artistic or linguistic realm. So there could be also other factors in it. So a lot of people, so I think there is a role for people like this. But, a lot of these people, they oversimplify the Bible and they're like, oh, gay, wrong. You need to be put through some, therapy or something like that. When actually, I think they're purposely not supposed to like women. They're not supposed to be forced to marry women. They're just not supposed to, you know what I mean? I don't think they should be going to, pride, of course, festivals and dancing around and, acting crazy and stuff. That's not the point, but you know what I mean? So I think there is a place for them. I just think that a lot of people have never really explored the topic, and they just say, oh, it's bad, you're wrong. And this is what I think has caused such a big division in society. I think is
I
because
mean,
they've
there's
never really.
obviously specific language that condemns certain behavior,
Right.
but
Yeah. 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 I know what you're
or
saying.
as far as an orientation, that's different. An
Right.
orientation is not a behavior, so where the line should be drawn is where when the behavior it does not follow or is obviously
Right.
breaking principles established in the Bible. So that's pretty much always the way that I've seen that, and it at least allows you for a wide range of gray area without having to um yeah, I mean, so you can allow for a particular thing, um and you don't have to sort of come down with the hammer. You can just say, hey, okay, I see this, no big deal. If I'm not married to a woman, I'm not supposed to be having sex with just random women. um and marriage is not something that, according to tradition, history, biblical principle, whatever, is not something for other than a man and a woman. So then that means that if you're oriented this way, you don't really have hey, that's your cross. That's your cross
There's
to bear.
actually
You
there's
know that
actually people that think this way. There's actually gay people that are Christians that think the way you're saying.
Yep.
There's some that think that way, literally the exact same way you said. And there's some that also think they can go farther than that. My whole point is that I think there's actually a place for, I think these people exist, and it's not like they're just like there's something wrong with them. I think it's like actually something to where they're made to be in a specific role in society, and that's been lost. Like, I think that in the ancient times they were protecting harems, they were maybe doing something more in the artistic realm or something, but now it's become like it's been hijacked by the devil and turned into something else, and being used as like a force to do, to push his agenda. So I feel like the devil, what he does is he causes Christians to have bad doctrine so that he can take power away from Christians and then be able to use it against them. So I think that's some of the dynamics of how he works, the devil.
Man, and then there's the whole, what really is a Christian? And okay, so here and this is like, of course, one of the critical aspects of that is going to be the ability to answer the question, what is the church?
Yeah.
That is not a question that people really want to engage. They just want to do this, the invisible church. If you have said this prayer and you earnestly believed, and now you're part of the body, you're saved as soon as you say this sinner's prayer. The problem with that is that the Bible is against that. Paul says that you pursue to the end, you press to the end, and then you'll be saved, right? And
You're
then
talking about those that say like they said one prayer 20 years ago. I actually had a friend. I had two friends like this. I had one friend who became a Satanist. Okay, so he was a Christian, or said he was a Christian. He did the sinner's prayer. He said, I believe that I'm saved even though I'm not living right. He said he could sometimes become an alcoholic again and stuff. And I was telling him, like, look, man, that's not right. You're supposed to be committed to Christ. And then later, I met him like 20 years later in a Chinese restaurant, and he told me he literally became a Satanist for a while, and then he came back to Christ, and he actually now believes correctly, like you have to be committed to Christ. So like this false gospel of like you just believe, say the sinner's prayer one time, and then you can just go out and do whatever you want. That's of the devil, man. That's just straight up to the devil. You're supposed to be, it's fidelity. It's like faithfulness to your wife. You're faithful to Christ. And of course, again, you have the Bible as your standard. Then also on top of that, you have the creeds. The creeds tell you what's orthodoxy and what's heresy. Instead, you have all these ministers running around saying they're the Pope and I can declare what's heretics and who's a heretic. They're just full of it. There's already creeds established telling you what is the basic doctrines. You don't need some minister telling you this, that, and the other. I got 40 different rules here, and if you don't agree with me, you're a heretic. I mean, give me a break, dude. You don't even know they don't even know what the creeds are. A lot of these ministers don't even know what a creed is.
Yeah, like for instance, obviously the Nicene Creed, which is
Right,
obviously
yeah, Apostles' Creed, Nicene Creed, right?
but the thing is, if you can't answer the question about what the church is, and if you obviously are holding beliefs that are not traditional Christian beliefs, and you're still calling yourself a Christian, it seems to me that it would be a good idea to at least pause and consider, because you could be, saving yourself from, fire and brimstone. I'm just saying. You could
Yeah, I
be.
mean, it's what's the basics? I mean, the Nicene Creed, right? Just like you said. I mean, that tells you the basics. Of course, you also have like the 10 Commandments and very simple understandings of things in the Bible. Understanding the Bible as the God. And then of course there's church structure and things like that. And of course, today we have all this willy-nilly crazy stuff going on. I mean, and you see it even in the Protestant church, there's a lot of corruption going on there. And it is kind of scary if you think about it, because there's a lot of churches that are just off track. And but I mean, if you're focused on God and you're trying to live right, and you understand the basics of Christianity, you understand the creeds, you're trying to follow the Bible, that's a good start. You know what I mean? And have faith in Christ, obviously believing on his death on the cross for repayment of your sin. Jesus' death on the cross is a victory over sin, right?
Believing that he was born from a virgin.
Well, yeah, that helps too.
Part of it, that's right. That's
simple understandings. Yeah.
There's a list of. There's a list of.
That's part of the creed, by the way. I think that's part of the creed.
Right. The belief in the one church. It says the one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church.
Well, now, they also add in the word Catholic, and then also the Pope added in the Filioque, which was not in the original Nicene Creed, where it says the Holy Spirit flows from the Son and the Father, when actually it just originally said the Holy Spirit flows from the Father.
Yeah, I know. I'm aware of
but
that.
That's the devil. That's the devil trying to overcomplicate things, screw things up. That's how the devil always works.
Yeah, but Catholic, the word Catholic is in the original creed. It
means universal church.
It means universal. It just means universal. Right. But that word is actually in the original creed. So it's not like the Roman Catholics said, okay, well, we're called Catholic, let's throw Catholic in there.
Right.
But it's the whole phrase is the one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church. The one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church. And the apostolic component of that, we kind of talked a little bit last week about this.
I wanted to mention one thing. Can I say something really quick, and then you can say that?
Sure.
Okay. So you remember I said, assuming my theory is correct, that the millennial kingdom was those 1,000 years of medieval times, right? So then the devil would have actually gotten into the church right at the end. Consider what people think is going to happen in the future happened in 450 AD, the fall of Rome. The Pope was given all the power from these Germanic tribe leaders. And if the devil really was in charge through the church at the time, and then Jesus came and destroyed it and set up his kingdom, it shows you that the devil actually was able to infiltrate the church, even though it says that he'll never conquer it, right? So Jesus came down and destroyed it. This is assuming I'm correct. So assuming I'm correct, and the devil was in the bottomless pit, he got out 1450 AD. So what do they call the medieval times? The Dark Ages. What do they call today? Age of Enlightenment. We're smart. So the devil is flipping it and saying, those were the evil times. Those are the Dark Ages, backwards times. Today's the light, the enlightenment. You're going to become gods now. You're going to eat of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, right? And so now he's using knowledge, the information age. This is the devil trying to control the age we're in. And what if the devil got back in the Vatican? The Vatican set up the Vatican Library in 1490 approximately. right after, if he did get out in the 1450s, the devil, what if he got back in the Vatican? Because he was in the Vatican when he left for 1,000 years, and he got out, and then he got
Yeah.
back. Would he be back in it? And this is
So
what I
that's
was saying. Go ahead.
so that's going to be one issue that I have with that theory. Is
Well, that's
it's
one part of the church. That's not the entire church.
Well, it's pretty clear. It says, "I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it." Now,
Right.
it seems to me that if the devil's running the church,
No,
at any
not
time, if the universal church has been taken over by the devil, that seems to me that the gates of hell have
no.
prevailed
But
against.
see
Unless you
that's
have-
the thing.
Unless you have
That's
a caveat.
No. Well, see, the Catholic Church isn't the universal church. That's one church today. It calls itself the Catholic Church, but there's a lot of churches that say we're the Church of Christ, we're the Assemblies of God, they all call themselves the
Hey,
church.
so that's my point. That was exactly my point. Asking the question, "What is the church?" Who actually is actually allowed to call themselves a church, and then who is just basically taking the name and saying, "Hey, we have the book, we have the manual, so we are going to slap church on the side of this building,
Do
and
you think
people
the
are going to come."
Orthodox? Do you think the Orthodox Church is a church?
I do. That's why I'm
Yeah.
Orthodox.
Is the Pope part of the Orthodox Church? No.
No.
Okay, so what's the problem, man?
No.
You see
I don't
what I
have
mean?
I don't have a problem. I'm just saying what I'm saying is this is why asking the question, "What is the church?" is so critical, because there's a lot of folks that on Sunday they go to a building that is called a church. It's called a church, but does it actually meet the standards of a church? Does it actually follow? I mean, do they even observe the Nicene Creed?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Um, and it's not just this is not just a matter of philosophy or methodology. I think that there's a necessary apostolic succession. There's actually a physical connection. It's not just like a mystical, spiritual connection. There's actually a physical connection. I think it very much mirrors the sort of spirit, soul, and body sort of thing. And that's why those illustrations about the body of Christ are there, is because there's actually a physical connection. At least at some time there was an actual physical
Well, I think
impartation.
you had Luther, who used to be a priest, and I think John Wesley was Anglican, right, at one time. So
Right.
you do have people that are in the Protestant movement that were part of either the Catholic or extension, some part of the church that was apostolic succession. Now they could make an argument from that.
I understand how they use that as an argument. I'm not
Right.
I'm not really. My point is less about trying to make people acknowledge that, see, the Orthodox Church is really the only true church. That's not really what it is. What I'm saying now I do believe that, but that's not my point. That's not my point.
Well,
My point
I
is,
don't exactly believe that. I do
ask-
think the Orthodox have a good structure, and I think
No.
they have good teaching and all that. I agree with you in that respect, though.
Yeah, so I'm saying now I do believe that, and that's why I am Orthodox. However, my question is, and my point is, people should be asking that question. And that's just not a Protestant question. Protestants don't ask that question. They almost never ask that question. I'm just like, dude,
Well,
that's
there's
like the most important question.
It's more than that.
That's the only question that matters.
Well, they don't ask about history of the church. They don't look at the history of the church. They don't ask about a lot of stuff that I think is really concerning. I think it's a big deal, the history of the church and understanding where the doctrines came from and what they originally believed and all that stuff. I think that's extremely important. And some Protestants think it's just completely irrelevant. They think even some of the early leaders were off track and heretics and stuff. I'm like, you're in the 20th century and you think guys back, disciples of the disciples were heretics? Really? I mean, it's kind of crazy if you think about it. You know what I mean? Like Theological of Antioch, 170 AD. I think you might know a little bit more than you about the correct teaching.
Right. And that's really my point. And that's actually the point of apostolic succession. It's the point of, what the church actually is, even asking that question, is to try to get closer to what, you know, the correct teaching, you know, the right, you know, to be doing the right stuff. And it's not just right teaching, it would be right practice, it would be right conduct, you know, it would be there's so much stuff that has not been access to the oral tradition. How can you access the oral tradition if you have no connection to the you know the place where the oral tradition came from? Who are you going to talk to? You can't talk
Yeah,
to
it's
this dude in
interesting.
the corner. He doesn't even, he can't even tell you about the canon of scripture. He don't even know when the New Testament canon of scripture was ratified. He don't even know that. So
It's kind
so
of
who are
like
you
in
going
the
to
Old Testament, like where they said there. What was that part of the Old Testament where it talks about like they don't even know where they're at? They're so far off track. They've lost their way. There's like a section where it talks about like Israel just being completely off track, don't even know the roots, just completely lost everything. And it kind of feels like that's where we're at. Sort of a lot of the church is kind of like at that range right now where they just don't know who they are, or where they're at. And it could be because of the time we're in. We're near the end, I think, too, you know, where everything's full of confusion and craziness. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, it's
All
getting
right.
late.
Yeah. This has been a good one, man. We got some bonus. We got some good bonus content at the end there.
Yeah,
That was a good conversation. All
yeah,
right.
it's good.
Well, next week we'll be on a little bit later. It'll be more like 10:45, you know, like that range as far as the
Mhm.
start time, 10:45, maybe as late as 11, because I've got a concert, I've got a gig that day. Um, but we'll be coming back at you next week. Make sure you like the video on the way out. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Become a channel member where you'll get access to all archived videos. Support independent media. Super chats enabled. Super thanks for the replay gang. Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, Dr. Thunder Music, all one word. Spell out the word doctor. And that is our show, Two Dads React, every Thursday at somewhere between 10 and 11 o'clock start time, just depending on what our schedules are like. But late evening on Thursdays is our time. So thanks again for coming through. Please spread the word about the show, and any support would be greatly appreciated. And that is our time. Peace.
See you guys.